It is somewhere after midnight. The room is dark. You are watching the baby monitor with the particular exhausted vigilance of a parent who has learned not to fully trust silence. And then you see it. Your baby, who moments ago was asleep, is awake, not crying, not fussing. They are lying completely still, head turned toward the corner of the room. The empty corner, the corner with nothing in it. No light source, no movement, no sound that you can detect. And they are smiling, not the reflexive, muscular smile of a newborn. Something else, something that looks, with a clarity that makes the hair on your arms rise slightly, like recognition, like delight, like the specific expression a person makes when someone they love has just walked into the room, except no one has walked into the room. You watch the monitor. Your baby holds that gaze, steady, focused, utterly absorbed, and then does something that will stay with you long after the phase has passed. They laugh at the corner, at the dark, at whatever it is they are seeing that you cannot. Most parents file this away as one of the inexplicable mysteries of early infancy. Something sweet, something slightly eerie, something they mention at dinner parties with a nervous laugh of their own. But developmental neuroscientists have spent decades studying exactly this moment, and what they have found in the data is not a mystery. It is a revelation. The explanations parents reach for are understandable. Dreams, imagination, random neural misfires in an immature brain. Some parents land on something more instinctive, something they don't say out loud, but feel quietly in the dark while watching that monitor, that someone else is in the room. But here's what the science actually says. All of those explanations, the dreams, the randomness, the imagination, share the same foundational assumption that the baby is responding to something internal, something generated from within, something that isn't really there. That assumption is wrong. What your baby is responding to is external, physical, real, present in that corner with the same concrete reality as the walls, the floor, the air. The difference, the only difference, is that you cannot perceive it. Not because your senses are failing, but because your brain, over years of development, was specifically restructured to ignore it, to filter it out, to classify it as irrelevant and discard it before it ever reached your conscious awareness. Your baby's brain has not yet performed that restructuring, which means they are not living in a simpler version of your world. They are living in a fuller one. In the first months of life, the human brain is not a finished instrument. Think of it like a radio receiver, one that is picking up every frequency simultaneously. Every signal, every channel, every layer of transmission happening in the environment at once. No tuning, no filtering, no preference for one signal over another. Just everything. That is the infant brain. Researchers at Harvard Medical School studying early visual development found that the newborn visual cortex responds to a significantly wider spectrum of light frequencies than the adult brain processes. The neural pathways that will eventually specialize, that will learn to prioritize certain wavelengths and suppress others, are still open, still receiving, all of them. The auditory system tells the same story. A landmark study from the University of Washington's Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences found that infants in the first 6 months of life are what researchers call universal perceivers. Their auditory cortex responds to phonetic distinctions, tonal frequencies, and acoustic patterns that adult brains, even adult brains actively listening for them, can no longer reliably detect. The mechanism behind this is called sensory gating. It is the process by which the brain gradually learns to tune the radio, to decide which frequencies matter, and to silence everything else before it ever reaches conscious awareness, automatically, below the threshold of perception. In adults, this system is so complete, so seamlessly integrated, that we don't experience it as filtering. We experience it as reality. We assume that what we perceive is what is there. It isn't. Researchers at University College London studying sensory processing have documented that the mature adult brain discards an estimated 80% of incoming sensory data before it reaches conscious awareness. 80%, classified as irrelevant noise and eliminated before you have any awareness that the information existed. Your baby discards almost none of it, which means that the room you experience as quiet and dim and unremarkable is to your infant something else entirely. Sensitivity is not a mistake of development. It is a feature of it. For the overwhelming majority of human evolutionary history, survival depended on perception. Specifically, on the ability to detect threats that were subtle, distant, easy to miss, a movement at the edge of vision, a sound below the threshold of casual attention, a shift in the acoustic texture of an environment that signaled something had changed. The adults who survived were the ones whose brains were best at detecting signal within noise. But detection alone wasn't enough. An adult's nervous system flooded with every available frequency of sensory input, unable to prioritize, unable to filter, would be paralyzed. Overwhelmed, non-functional, the adult brain had to learn what to ignore. The infant brain had not yet learned that lesson, and in the ancestral environment, that hypersensitivity served a precise purpose. An infant who could detect subtle environmental shifts, changes in light, in sound, in the acoustic signature of a space, was an infant capable of signaling danger before the adults around them had registered it. The laughter you see on that monitor is not random. It is the response of a consciousness encountering genuine sensory richness, a nervous system processing input that your own brain classified as irrelevant years ago and has not reconsidered since. What is in that corner? Shifting air currents that alter the acoustic properties of the room. Subtle variations in ambient light invisible to filtered adult perception, frequencies of sound produced by the house itself, by electrical systems, by the movement of air through spaces that fall outside the narrow band your sensory gating system has learned to pass through. To you, nothing. To your baby, a full sensory event. Somewhere in the second year of life, the filtering begins in earnest. The process is called synaptic pruning, and it is one of the most significant neurological events in human development. The infant brain is born with more neural connections than it will ever have again. Far more than it needs, far more than it can efficiently maintain. The early brain is built for maximum sensitivity, for receiving everything, because it does not yet know what will matter. Experience teaches it. Every time a sensory input proves consistently irrelevant, every time a frequency produces no meaningful outcome, no response worth attending to, the neural pathway carrying that input weakens. The connection is used less, and gradually, following the foundational rule of neural development, use it or lose it, it is pruned away. Permanently. Researchers at MIT's Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences have documented that by age 2, a child has lost approximately half of the synaptic connections they were born with, not because development has failed, because it has succeeded. The brain has learned what matters. It has built its filters. It has become efficient. It has also become narrower. The version of the room your baby perceives at 3 months old, the full bandwidth, unfiltered, sensory-rich version, is a version of that room they will never perceive again. The laughter at the empty corner is not a phase to be grown out of. It is a capacity being grown out of. And once it is gone, it does not return. For most infants, this hypersensitivity is temporary, self-resolving, a normal feature of a brain doing exactly what it is designed to do. But occasionally, the filtering process does not complete on the expected timeline. Researchers studying sensory processing disorders have found that in some children, the sensory gating system develops atypically. The brain continues to admit information it would normally filter, or filters too aggressively, suppressing input that should reach conscious awareness. Both patterns are clinically significant. A child who remains in a state of sensory hypersensitivity beyond infancy may show signs of chronic overwhelm, distress in environments that seem ordinary, extreme reactions to sounds, lights, or textures that other children do not register. This is not a behavioral problem. It is a neurological one, and it responds to early intervention in ways that later intervention cannot replicate. If your child past the first year of life shows persistent signs of sensory overwhelm, if ordinary environments produce consistent, escalating distress that cannot be soothed, if their responses to sensory input seem categorically different from other children their age, raise it with your pediatrician. not because something is necessarily wrong, but because the brain's window of maximum plasticity is measured in months, and the parents who notice early are always the ones who were paying close enough attention to see the difference. So go back to that monitor. Go back to the dark room, the empty corner, the baby who turned towards something you cannot see and laughed with the specific wholehearted delight of someone encountering something genuinely wonderful. They are not seeing ghosts. They are not dreaming. They are not randomly misfiring. They are not confused about what is real and what is not. They are seeing more of what is real than you can. Here is the thing about that corner. It didn't become empty. It was never empty. The air currents are still moving through it. The frequencies are still present. The acoustic textures, the light variations, the layers of environmental information your baby's nervous system once received in full, they are all still there, every one of them. The room didn't change. Your brain simply learned, gradually and permanently, to stop perceiving most of it. The radio is still broadcasting. You just stopped hearing most of the channels years ago, so quietly, so completely, that you never noticed they went silent. Your baby hasn't lost them yet. And in the weeks and months before the pruning begins, before experience teaches their brain what to ignore, and the filters lock into place, they are living inside a version of reality that is by every neurological measure richer than yours, more detailed, more populated, more alive. The laughter is not confusion. It is the sound of a consciousness at full bandwidth, receiving everything, missing nothing, existing briefly, completely, irreversibly, in the unedited version of the world. So the next time you watch that monitor at midnight, the next time you see those eyes turn toward the corner you cannot find anything in, the next time you hear that laugh rising from a dark room at a silent wall, don't wonder what they're seeing. Wonder what you've forgotten how to see. Leave a comment below and tell me about your corner. The specific one, the time of night it happened, what your baby's face looked like when they found it. Because somewhere right now, another parent is watching the same thing on their own monitor, and they need to know they're not alone in this.